The tax-free savings account is the most important investment account you can have as you head into retirement, but it's not why you think. It's not because it grows money tax-free for you. It's not because you can build up a big pool of money and pull it out every 7 years to buy a new car. It's because it's a great lever account. Now, what is a lever account? Well, it's going to be the most important account for you in retirement, like I just said, because it's going to allow you to take a little bit more money out or put more money back in with great flexibility. And let me explain it showing our software. So if we jump into the software, you'll see here, this is the same client we used last video, Mr. and Mrs. YouTube. They have about $61,000 a year of income. And if we jump over to, let's say, Mr. YouTube and look at what he's drawing out. So if we pick a year, let's say next year, 2024, you can see he's pulling out $30,000 from his RSP and $6,590 from his tax-free savings account. Mrs. YouTube, on her side, she's doing a little bit different. $6,000 from the RSP, $20,000 from the spousal RSP, and then $5,200 from the TFSA. So let's focus on the TFSA accounts for these two clients. So if we look at next year, $5,205, and we look at Mr. YouTube again, it was $6,590. Now let's say Mr. and Mrs. YouTube decide, look, we don't need $61,000, or we didn't spend $61,000 this year. So how does that kind of change our plan? And we talk through this with all our clients on a daily basis that we put plans together for, because we know that you're not going to spend exactly $61,156 in the year. It might be a little bit less, it might be a little bit more, but how do you kind of flex the plan a little bit? And that's where your tax-free savings account is a huge beneficial account for you as you walk through retirement. So again, let's look at the plan and say, instead of $61,156, let's assume next year they only spend $55,000. How does that change things? So going back into the software here, all we do here is click $55,000. We'll save that. We'll hit generate here. So run scenario. And now what I want to do is go back into each of them and see how much money is coming out of their tax-free savings account. You'll see Mr. YouTube, he's still pulling the same $30,000 out of his RSP or his RIF. That's the tax plan. We don't want to disrupt the tax plan at this point. But you can see the tax-free savings account went from about $6,500 down to $3,000. So we're taking less out of the tax-free savings account. They didn't spend as much. We can let that money grow for them going forward. And maybe next year, instead of $61,000, they need $65,000. For a lot of people, the reality is that you don't have kind of a level spending through retirement. Maybe you do a big trip every 2 years. So, you don't need that $61,000, it's $50,000 and it's $70,000. It could be very lopsided. Again, that's where that TFSA, some planning with your financial planner, comes in to understand, like, what is my lever account? Which one can I leave a bit more money in, or should I take more money out when I need it? So Mrs. YouTube went from over $5,000 again down to about $2,400 out of her TFSA. So you can see there, as we adjust the income levels, it's going to draw a different amount. Now, if we bump this up, let's say they had a heavy year and they were up to $70,000, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to take more money out of that TFSA. Of course, if they were to draw $70,000, we want to make sure that they're scaling it back for a future year, or else they could run out of money down the road. But you'll see now we're taking $11,000. So the tax planning is that RIF account, the RSP, and then the flexibility in that lever account for this client comes around the TFSA account. Now, one caveat here to that TFSA account and the lever account is if you're somebody with a non-registered account. So let's say you have, RIFs and maybe LIRs, you got a lot of different accounts, but your lever account, you say, Adam, I have a tax-free savings account, but I also have a non-registered account, an account that's creating that tax liability every year. Your non-registered account is going to be your lever account until it's depleted. So if you're someone with a lot of money and you may never deplete your TFSA account, shove that aside and enter in that non-registered account. So on kind of a hierarchy of lever accounts, it's going to be your non-registered account and then your TFSA account. For most Canadians, you don't have a non-registered account. You probably are unable to max out your TFSA. So you want to make sure you understand how this works and why it's so beneficial. So if you're someone with a non-registered account, how that's going to work for a lever is very much the same. Within your plan, you're going to have some money coming in or out of that account every single year. On top of that, you want to be drawing out of that non-registered account enough money to top up your TFSA every year, which I assume you're doing, but if you're not, make sure you're doing that. So again, as you enter retirement, there's a lot of key parts to your retirement plan. A lever account is a massively important part of your plan if you want some flexibility. So understand, when you have your plan, what's your lever account, how does it work, and how much flex do you have within that account?